When you look at the season that Lamelo Ball has had for the Charlotte Hornets this year, I think it's easy to say that since maybe somebody like LeBron James or maybe Donovan Mitchell in that first year when he was with the Utah Jazz, there has not been a more impactful rookie to come into the NBA and play this well and have this much of an impact on his team in the first year of his career. The first thing that anybody is going to look at for a player when judging how valuable they are to a team is what they're putting up in the stat book. And for LaMelo Ball, it's not too bad. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting about 44% from the field and 35% from three. Even though those percentages have dipped a little bit from where he was earlier in the season, that's still very good for a rookie. However, in my opinion, the most impactful thing that LaMelo Ball has done for the Charlotte Hornets doesn't even have to do with the on the court, but it more has to do with what he's been able to do for the organization off the court. When the Charlotte Hornets lost Kemba Walker a couple of years ago, it kind of deflated the franchise. A lot of people started questioning whether Michael Jordan was really, a viable option as an owner of a franchise and the guy who is making decisions as to what the roster is going to look like. Compound that with lottery decisions like Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, and a couple other guys who it seemed weren't really panning out to be great selections, especially compared to what was taken after them. And we have a Charlotte Hornets franchise that was looked at as possibly not only the worst franchise in the NBA, but one of the worst franchises in sports. However, that narrative about the Charlotte Hornets quickly changed from them being one of the worst franchises in sports to being one of the more fun-loving teams in the NBA. All of this value that LaMelo Ball has added to the franchise of the Charlotte Hornets, in my opinion, it doesn't make him the MVP of the league. I think it would be almost an impossible run for him to go on during the rest of the season and possibly make a postseason run for him to enter that conversation. But I think, at least if you're going to look at a top 10 ranking or, maybe even arguably a top 5 conversation, LaMelo Ball has to enter the conversation of MVP rankings. As I said, the first thing everybody is going to look at for LaMelo Ball and any player is what he puts up in the box score. And while some people are going to try to use that as a knock on LaMelo Ball, he only is, some people are going to say he's only averaging 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. However, if you look at what he's done since he actually just entered the starting lineup a couple of weeks ago, he's averaging about 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists a game. He's shooting well over 40% from three, well over, I think, close to 50% from the field. And he's just been the most solid option on this Charlotte Hornets team that is leading their division. And speaking of division leads, if the season were to end today in the NBA, the Charlotte Hornets would be in first place in the division. That would be the first time in their 30 to 40 year franchise history that they have ever won their division. And while for some of you guys that might not sound like it's a real big deal in the NBA, and realistically it's not. But when you're talking about a franchise who, like I said, has not won literally anything in their 30 to 40 year history, having that first division championship and having just, a something of success to be looking forward to and have, proof of, that does immense things for this franchise. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that LaMelo Ball was selected to this team. Now, looking at all of the other players that are on this franchise and on this roster, you might start to look at the fact that Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier look like they're more maybe the main options when it comes to the offense. But that's not really true. When you have somebody like LaMelo Ball, who is a 6'6", 180, point guard, he's kind of the guy that's orchestrating everything on the offensive end. You can tell by the fact that he leads the team in assists. He's one of the top players on the team in terms of rebounds, which is a really good thing. And one of the things that was supposed to be a knock on LaMelo Ball and was supposed to be, the thing that was going to drive him out of the NBA was the fact that he's maybe not the best defender in the world. However, he leads the team in steals, even though that's not necessarily the best stat to look at for a player and judging his defensive impact. He still is the best player on the team at generating steals. He still is, if you watch him play, he looks like he's actually, interested in playing defense. And that's a lot more than you can say about a lot of other rookies who have entered the league before. And getting back to Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, especially Gordon Hayward, if you look at the season he's had, I think, I said this in the last video that I made about the Charlotte Hornets, what LaMelo Ball has brought to the Charlotte Hornets in terms of not only just being a consistent playmaker, but being somebody who's going to take away highlights from the rest of the team, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I totally mean that in a way that, Gordon Hayward has really flown under the radar this year. 22 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists a game while adding a steal and shooting over 42% from the three is no joke in the NBA today. Even though there has been a scoring boom over the past few years, doing what Gordon Hayward is doing, like I said, is no joke. And Terry Rozier is not too far behind him in terms of a production level. Those two guys, I think, have benefited the most from playing with Lamelo Ball. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lamelo Ball is going to get a lot more attention, not only on the court, but he's going to get a lot of attention off the court, which just takes a whole lot of pressure off the rest of the guys that are on the floor. And this is something that we always talk about when we judge players and judge whether or not they should be considered an MVP. We always look at LeBron James, or we always look at Steph Curry, or we always look at Kevin Durant and judge them on how they make their teammates better. And like I just pointed out, the way LaMelo Ball is a flashy playmaker, the way he's a consistent player already in the NBA, that's already been able to make his teammates better and get a lot of pressure taken off of them. And at the end of the day, LaMelo Ball, I think, gives everybody confidence. On the court, he gives guys like Miles Bridges and Malik Monk, who have been kind of afterthoughts after they got drafted by the Hornets organization, as how they can affect the team positively. And now that LaMelo Ball is on the court and making everybody around him better, we start looking at guys like Malik Monk and Miles Bridges and seeing how they could be an effective piece on a championship contending roster. And I understand that 13-15 is not the best record to have if you want to be a championship contending roster. But just the trajectory that this team is on after LaMelo Ball has been drafted to the team, it's pointing straight up. James Borrego looks like he's probably going to be around for multiple years due to the fact that LaMelo Ball has been this well this early. And, that adds value to his name as well. And when you look at somebody like Michael Jordan, who's, he's not maybe the only voice when it comes to draft decisions, but he is the owner of the team. He is working with Mitch Kupchak, but he is the owner of the team. And he is probably the final say when it comes to draft selections. And a lot of the draft selections that he's made in his 10 years, or I guess 11 years now as the guy in Charlotte, are somewhat questionable. A lot of people questioned, Miles Bridges and Malik Monk and the Martin twins and PJ Washington. A lot of these guys have been questioned. And then when you look at the free agency decisions, Gordon Hayward getting $100+ million, Terry Rozier getting all that money back then. There's a lot of questionable moves that, were questioned up to this point from Michael Jordan. And now that they have LaMelo Ball playing this well and leading their team to a division title, there's no reason that there is going to be any sort of questioning about Michael Jordan from here on out in his, free agency, draft decisions, trade decisions. And it just looks like this Charlotte Hornets franchise is getting to be a consistently, okay franchise, at least in the NBA. And a lot of that has to do with LaMelo Ball. And the fact that he's done this that quickly, in my opinion, makes him an MVP candidate. With all that being said, that's going to be the video for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like. If you didn't, make sure you leave a dislike. Any feedback from you all at this point is much appreciated. If you're new around here, make sure you hit subscribe. If you're one of my returning subscribers, I appreciate you a lot. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.